Welcome back to Beyond the Wall podcast. I am super excited today. As you know, my name is Pastor Joel, your lovely host, and this is my wife,
Pastor Elizabeth.
And we're super excited because in this day, we're going to be sharing with you everything that you need to know for the 2025 year. We're talking about New Year's resolutions. Now, New Year's resolutions is a major topic at this point of the year. Let me just give you a little breakdown of what I see about this time of the year. So we all start talking about working out and losing weight and going back to the gym. And if you're a gym owner, now is when you bank. What do you think about that, Pastor Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that simply because I even started that resolution probably close to about a month now. So I'm trying to go ahead of it because I want to make sure I'm already getting in shape and setting goals and trying to discipline myself to begin also, or to continue rather, in January, as opposed to just starting in January the way everybody does. I wanted to get a head start.
I mean, truth be told, there's a lot of you that want six packs. I have some information for you. You already have a six pack. It's just inside, underneath a couple of layers of skin. Look at that. No, but on a serious note, let's talk about New Year's resolutions. Let's talk about not only New Year's resolutions, but how to effectively keep to those New Year's resolutions, because we all make them, but we all break them so frequently. I mean, like I used the example of the gym. You know, come February, mid-February, those gyms go from being jam-packed to jammed empty. And this is something that we want to stop. Why? There's steps that we can take in being able to be effective in keeping our New Year's resolutions. And I want to share those with you. It's 5 simple steps. The first step is setting realistic and achievable goals. There's an acronym that I like to use. It's SMART. And SMART means being specific, being measurable, providing something achievable, being relevant, and being time-bound. So those are SMART goals. So a specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound goal. What happens when you make these resolutions, a lot of times we're not realistic. You know, sometimes we'll make these resolutions and we just say, okay, if I weigh 150 pounds, I want to lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks. You're not going to do it. Let's be honest. Not even with Ozempic can you do it. And the next thing is, what happens is when you don't actually achieve that goal, now you feel down. So instead of going down in weight, you end up going up because now you fall into depression. You start anger eating, sad eating, depression eating, and all of a sudden you're back to a place that you didn't want to be simply because you made an unachievable, unrealistic, majorly specific, but on a bad way, goal that doesn't help you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do believe that, like that saying goes, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Who taught you that?
One bite at a time. So it's like you have to take realistic steps in order to be able to get to the goals that you want, and in a manner that is achievable. Because if you start doing unrealistic things, you might be on fire for the first week or two, but because it's not a realistic method in which you're doing things, it's going to downfall. You're going to stop doing it. And, you know, there goes whatever goals you have.
So let's take the example of losing weight just because it's one of the easier examples, I think, at least when it comes to this, right? So let's say your goal was 50 pounds. It could be, but take your 50 pounds and break them up into smaller bits. So in being smart about your goals, say, okay, I want to lose 5 pounds. I'm going to give myself 3 weeks. And you may say, hey, Pastor, I can lose 5 pounds in a week. I'm sure you can. Not everyone can. Right. And I'm also accounting for, and we should all account for when we do our resolutions, for a little bit of a fudge factor, a little bit of a factor where we give ourselves some leniency. Because if we don't have leniency, we tend to break. Right. You know, there's a reason that palm trees survive in hurricanes. And it's because, you know, a palm tree can go all the way down and come right back up. Where a tree from up north, if that wind hits it, it goes all the way down and it stays down.
Yeah.
So, you know, we got to be realistic. So the first step is setting realistic and achievable goals. The second step is psychological strategies for success. So now what I mean about, or what I'm trying to say through psychological strategies for success is exploring the psychology behind habit formation and change. Okay. It's trying to understand why, what's the root, how do we get there, how can we really achieve the goals that we want, and why? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I know for myself, I realized that when I'm doing something at least for a week straight, and I mean daily, consecutively, I see myself already adapting to a pattern, to a ritual, to a
habit.
A habit. And it becomes easier to habit form when you're doing it continually. I think that the main ingredient in that psychological aspect is getting that muscle memory to get firmly embedded so that you can continue to do what you set out to do, but it's through continuity.
So let's break it down, right? So a psychological strategy for success can be broken down into 4 steps. Number 1, explore the psychology behind the habit formation and change. In other words, understand why you want to do it. Why do you want to lose weight? What is the reason behind it? Is it your health? Is it because you want to have better looks? Is it because you want to feel better about yourself? Right. Once you determine that reason, then you can go to the next step. The next step is having positive reinforcement. Okay. It's being able to acknowledge your goal and the spots in your goal line that you've met. So if I want to lose 5 pounds and I get on the scale after 2 days and I lost 1 pound, give myself a high five.
That's right.
And say, you know what? I made it. I made a pound. Now I go on to the next pound. And like my wife said, you eat that elephant, pound at a time, bite at a time, every little step, right? Makes sense? The third step is going to be visualization. And this is huge right now. It's vision boards.
That's a big
one. So
one.
at this time of the year, so many people are making vision boards. Yeah. You want to visualize these things. You want to put them up. You want to label them out. You want to make it clear, like Habakkuk says, put the vision down so someone else can read it and run with it.
That's right.
So vision boards. What's your thought on vision boards?
Well, that's big for me. I'm a visual learner. Not only visual, I'm visual and I kind of need them both at the same time. I need to hear the audible part, but I also need to see a visual. So for some people, you might want to have something that you can hear as well as something that you can see. But I think that if you have something up on a vision board or up somewhere in your house where you're constantly looking at it on a daily basis, it's that little, it's like, you know, when you have that drop that keeps going, or that squeaky wheel, like that constant thing that's kind of nagging you, egging you on and telling you, hey, remember, you have to do this, or hey, you know, this is your resolution, or this is what you have to be doing. If you have that constant thing that's reminding you of what you have to do visually, then I think that it's something that's going to nag you until you actually get it accomplished.
Absolutely. So vision boards are very important.
Yes.
Another very important part in the psychological aspect of being able to achieve these resolutions is having accountability partners.
Yes.
There's nothing better than an accountability partner. And that works in every facet of life, whether it be you wanted to kick a habit, whether it be you wanted to get over alcoholism, drug addiction, or whatever issue it is. You got to have someone that you can call on and say, hey, I'm going through this. I need someone to be there for me. I need to talk to someone. I just need someone to be there, just because if I'm by myself, I might fall again.
Right. I think that's a great thing. Accountability partners, at least you and I, for the most part, we're each other's accountability partners. It's like a double-edged sword sometimes, because I think that at times the opposite person or the other person might feel like they're being judged or they're being picked at often or whatnot. But at the end of the day, if we can't be honest with each other and helping one another, then what's the point? We're supposed to be each other's helpmate, or whoever your accountability partner is. We shouldn't take it from a stance of us being judged, but somebody saying, hey, you know what? You set out for these goals. Hey, you set out to want to accomplish this. I'm here to remind you of those goals that you want to achieve. And I think that deliverance is the biggest thing on or the way that's going to maximize, or the way that's going to downfall in the approach that we have when it comes to becoming that accountability
partner. But remember
partner.
one thing, accountability is not always negativity. And I think that's where a lot of us lose track with accountability partners, and the reason why so many of us stray from it. Because accountability partner is not just accounting for your wrongs. They're supposed to be accounting for your rights as well. See, if somebody is your accountability partner and that person is affirming you, and they affirm you just like they correct you, there's a good balance, guess what? That's the perfect accountability partner. But anyway, let's move on. So let's talk about the 4th step. The 4th step is understanding the role of community and support in that particular resolution. So now we're talking about highlighting the importance of having a support system, going back to the accountability part. But not only accountability, but having someone to go to online. Let's say if you're trying to lose weight, just to use that example, you know, having someone that you can go to listen to about health tips, having someone that you can go to listen to about exercise tips, using the internet to be able to tie in truly into those little pointers that are going to help you change. One thing that I remember in my days of going to the gym, and I know many of you are thinking, Pastor, it looks like you're still going to the gym. I know, I get it. But back in the days when I used to go to the gym and I was really fit, I always knew one thing. If I was going to the gym and I didn't feel any pain, I was doing something wrong. And that's what happens. A lot of us start good and we hit that first day at the gym and we start feeling that hurt and that burn in our muscles. But all of a sudden we start plateauing. And then what happens is we're kind of like, well, all right, I'm still going to the gym. But if we're not making a real effort to change, then nothing is changing. And that's very important to understand.
That's right.
So we also have to learn how to discuss how to find and create supportive environments. In other words, surround ourselves with people who are going to support us to do good. Eliminate all the negativity. I hate to say this, but eliminate the haters. Because if we don't start eliminating the haters, and who are the haters? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. In my life, my role of my wife and I, we've changed. And what I mean is that when we first got married, I was I would lean incredibly towards gaining weight very easily. You remember? Now in these days, thank God, an answered prayer, a miracle, and it's happening. Now it's a little harder for me to gain weight. So what happens is, because it's a little harder for me to gain weight now, sometimes I tend to eat things that I wouldn't have in the past. So if my wife is trying to lose weight, sometimes I'm a bad person to have around her, because I like the baklava and I like the tres leches and I like all that good stuff. And I lived all my life repressing myself as a young person and as a youth, that now I'm going to take it out. I'm pushing my muscles to the next level.
That's why I started going to the gym for 1 month before. But piggybacking on that, it makes a lot of sense, because where you said about it also being positive, because who's training me right now is my daughter. And if I'm doing something at the gym that has a bad form, if I'm not doing it properly, going back to what you were saying, I don't feel anything. And then she'll say to me, are you feeling it? Do you feel this? And when she asks me that question, I revisit the form in which I'm doing it. And then I realize, you know what? I'm not doing this right. Therefore, there's no gain in what I'm doing, because my form is not correct. I'm not lifting or doing things the way I'm supposed to be doing. Therefore, there's not going to be a good effect that's going to come from that. So having a person positively speaking into you, telling you the things also that you're doing right, is going to also be beneficial towards these resolutions that we might have. And again, we're just using the gym as an analogy, but
it's the easiest one,
but it can be anything that's going on in your life.
Now let's go to the next step. Now let's talk about overcoming common obstacles. So what I mean by that, when you set out to make resolutions, it's important to make a pros and cons list. It's important to make a direction list. In other words, the steps that you're going to take to do something, and a list of the things or the obstacles that you can confront. When we do that pros and cons list, or that obstacle list, what we can do is we can identify a lot of the common challenges that we're going to find. For example, one of the cons, if you're trying to lose weight, is if you're living with someone that's not trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
So now you have to negotiate a way so that if there is bad food, let's say, in your house, that you're either not exposed to it or that you can avoid it easily. Because let's be honest, when you're trying to lose weight, if you keep seeing that thing that's tempting you, most of us will fall over time.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's a really great point, because my husband and I both have gone through different seasons in our life where one is trying to lose weight, one is trying to stay at the same weight, or we're not, again, using the same analogy so that we can stay on the topic. But there's something that's very crucial, I think, for everybody to really internalize and make part of, let's say, the tools that you're going to use in addressing anything that you want to address as a New Year's resolution. You have to want to do this for yourself.
Purpose.
It can't be based on, I'm going to do it if my husband joins me on this. I'm going to do it if my best friend does it with me. I'm going to do it if my coworker or my children do this with me. It can't be that way. And I'm going to tell you why. Life is all circumstantial. There are going to be different things that we are going to be faced with on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. Things are subject to change. Therefore, we have to make a conscious decision within ourselves that we're going to have the self-control to do whatever we're going to do, and we're going to do it for ourselves. Because I'm going to tell you something. When we first got married, I was being very disciplined because I was in the season of having children. And you know, when you have children, you do put on those pounds, right?
Not my wife.
But if I would have given in to my husband just wanting to feed me, because that's one of the ways he likes to show his love, is feeding me. If I would have given in to every time that he was doing this and not have the self-control or the goals that I had to try to lose all of the baby weight after I had the babies, I would have never lost that. You have to determine it for yourself. You have to say to yourself, I'm going to do this whether or not my husband's on board. I'm going to do this whether or not so-and-so is on board, because this is the goal that I have and this is what I want to do. And I think that having that attitude towards bettering yourself in turn is going to help you to be better for others. But you have to make that decision for yourself and have the self-control to actually fulfill it.
So along with that, some of the common obstacles you're going to find to trying to stick your resolutions is lack of motivation. You got to consider lack of motivation. You got to consider time management issues. You know, when, and again, going back to health, if you have to cook a healthy meal, sometimes you'll find yourself in a place where you don't have the time to do it. So you have to think ahead. And then you got to consider setbacks, you know, but ultimately a very important part to overcome these common obstacles is having a victory journal. Take it day by day. You know, there was an old Christian song that I remember in Spanish. It was Un día a la vez, one day at a time. And when we're able to do things one day at a time, we can enclose our progress in very small bits, but we can also enclose our detriments. So if we have a fall, it's not an enormous fall, you know? And over time, if you look at all the victories and the progress you have, you'll notice that it's a great finish so far. So let's go to the final stop, because I know that you guys want to start writing those resolutions down, right? So the final point that I want to touch on today is tracking progress and celebrating milestones, like we just said.
That's good.
It's all about talking about different methods of tracking progress, such as journals. You can use a victory journal, like I mentioned back a moment ago. You can use apps. There's a lot of apps that can help you, things that'll keep you on point. And you can do regular check-ins with your accountability partners, which is also something that I highly recommend. It's all about sharing experiences. You know, ultimately, get together with a group of people that are like-minded, like anything else in life. And now we're going beyond just weight loss and eating right. It could be anything. It could be financial. It could be you setting up relational goals, financial goals, health goals, whatever kind of goals. The idea is to stay surrounded by positive people, log in the information of the progress that you've made and the detriments. Be on the lookout for things that may want to harm you or things that may not be positive for you. And just keep reminding yourself to use the strengths around you, the people around you that love you, the people around you that'll support you. Align yourself with those people and stay focused. Set yourself on the goals, set them up before God, and let him have his way. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time. All I want to tell you is that in my book, you guys are all successes. You guys are all doing great. Don't let the adding of a pound or the loss of a pound or whatever your scenario is bring you down. Shake it off. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that is great advice. I think that the main thing that we have to do is to not remain in that bender, whatever it is. If that bender is alcohol, if that bender is drugs, if that bender is overeating, if that bender is, you know, just being a procrastinator, whatever it is, what we have to do is learn how to shake it off. How do we do that? By keeping tabs on our different things. If we had a bad weekend, a bender weekend, the weekend where we just went off and did bad, then we know that, you know what, starting Monday, I'm going to get disciplined. Starting Monday, I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to stop those 2 or 3 days of a bad cycle that I had in whatever it is that I was doing. And I'm going to restart and I'm going to log it in and I'm going to keep track and I'm going to once again get on board, because it is easier, going back to a tangible example, it is easier to lose 3 or 4 pounds that maybe you gained over the weekend overeating than it is to have to lose 20 pounds that you continue eating like that for 2-3 weeks. And now you have to recuperate from that.
One day at a time.
One day at a time.
Log your victories. Log your failures.
Yes.
One day at a time. Keep it moving. Move forward. We love you guys. If we haven't told you, let yourself know we love you. Comment, Share with us your opinion. I'd love to hear it. I read everything that goes on right there underneath us. So I encourage you to share your comments, share this feed, comment, like, follow us, all that good stuff. Love you guys. Have a great 2025.
Have a great 2025. A happy new year.